Now guys, over the past week I've been testing this car, which is one of Mercedes-Benz's latest models. Yes, that's right, it's the Facelift GLB 2024. And it's a fully fledged 7-seater with kind of squared off looks, maximising that available space. And yes, we'll also take it out on the road as well. I'll give my honest thoughts. So yeah, when you look to the side of this car, you definitely do notice that kind of squared off angular look at the back. And I'm pretty sure Mercedes-Benz have done this on purpose, mainly to maximise the available space, because quite a lot of cars usually have a little bit of a curve on the back, but this one is purely about maximising space on the inside. In fact, I even remember hearing something about the engine being mounted slightly differently in the GLB compared to like a GLC that Mercedes offer, basically to maximise that space on the inside. And you do notice it, because obviously this is like 7 seats, and considering it's similar dimensions to like a GLC, you don't get 7 seats in a GLC, but you do in a GLB. So, speaking of dimensions, length is 4,649 millimeters, width 2020, and height 1701. Now in terms of facelift changes, there are definitely spec changes, which you'll want to check out on what Mercedes call Premium and Premium Plus packages. And I believe the one I have here is Premium Plus, so it has loads of gadgets. So I'm not going to go through those in complete detail, just because I want to keep the video as generic as possible for as many people as possible. But in terms of the facelift changes apart from spec, I was surprised to see that the grille on the front doesn't have the Mercedes stars, a bit like on my own car. But yeah, I guess Mercedes have gone for a slightly different approach, going for like a diamond grille effect, making these all kind of polished chromes. So yeah, quite nice. If you notice as well, having a look around the car, it also has elements of a night package. So a night package basically adds black mirrors, black wheels and other areas of the car to just kind of give it a bit of a colour contrast, which I think is pretty cool. I wish Mercedes did it more, and I wish I had it on my car as well. Right, let's have a look at the boot. Now the boot on the GLB is a special one. So as you see right here is 565 litres, just kind of with the seats here. Now I mentioned earlier, this is a 7-seater, so under here you can actually bring up the third row, what Mercedes refer to it. Of course, then you've got the second row as well, which I'll show you how to do in a second. Now if you fold the seats down, it will go to 1,800 litres. So how do you fold the seats? Well, first and foremost, you're going to want to get rid of this reversible mat which comes with them, which is quite nice. So I'll get rid of him. Then of course what you want to do is then get rid of this. So this is kind of like a boot cover. So this will come out like this. But of course, if you're going to use the third row, you're going to want to take that out. So all you do is put your hand on one side, pull away, and then you can take that out. Now Mercedes-Benz have actually thought of this, which is quite clever. You can actually put that under there, all in the same kind of storage space. You don't actually have to leave it in the hallway at home. But for now, I'm just going to leave it over here. Now the next thing to do is of course to adjust the second row. So what you need to do is move these seats forward to give legroom for the third row. So let's show you how to do that now. So the way you do this is basically there's a lever underneath, and yes, you can actually adjust the legroom for the second row, which I think is pretty cool. So what I do is kind of just sit like this and then move it forwards like this. Now that's as far forward as it goes, and I should add to that is my driving position being 6'2", quite long legs. So I would probably do it about halfway, and then what you can also do is adjust the backrest as well. So again, that's like as far forward as it goes, but let's be fair and do it about halfway. So maybe about there. Then we'll do the same for this side, about there, and then we'll do the same for him, and same for him. Now we can go to the back. Now that we've done that, now we can bring these seats up. So there are kind of red cables or red ropes there. Pull this, that can come up, and then pull this one, and then that can come up here like this, and then suddenly you've got loads of space on the inside. How cool is that? So in the middle here, there are 2 cup holders as well, and there's also USB-C ports either side for the rear seat passengers. And I think they've even got their own mats as well. Now that's pretty cool. Now, obviously, if you're not going to use the extra seats, by all means, have them folded down and then just kind of use it as a 5-seater, which I think a lot of people are going to do. But you could do just kind of one side and have like storage on there. It's quite practical. You can adjust the kind of storage to your needs. So yeah, I think it's quite cool. And this is what I mean by Mercedes-Benz maximising their space. So yes, maximising the space, absolutely tons. Let's put these seats back and have a look at the second row. All right, so sat behind myself, so that's my driving position being 6'2", and then yeah, there's enough legroom here for a nice big SUV. Headroom as well, loads of good headroom. I can get my whole hand above my head, not just about including my thumbs, so that's pretty good. Obviously there is a sunroof here as well in this particular car. But yeah, the headroom's obviously really good because of the squared off design that this car has. So yeah, pretty good. But in terms of everything else, now I've moved these seats back as far as they'll go. Now obviously if you're going to have extra people in the rear, and no, I'm not going to try and fit in those seats because I think it would just look really, really comical. Me having long legs. It's not designed for full adults in the very back. In the Mercedes-Benz range, you'll want something like a GLE or GLS for larger adults, but even then it'll still be a bit of a squeeze. But yeah, if you move the seats slightly farther forwards, then obviously that's what it's going to look like, and obviously you can adjust the backrest as well. So it's cool, so you can adjust that. You could even bring these forward as well and have like a slightly larger boot. So really, really practical and a very, very good design for just making use of all that available space. Because you could even just flatten one side and just have it completely flat there for long items or something. Of course you can do the seats in the rear, doing the 20/40 split as well. But yes, cup holders. That's Mercedes-Benz's what I describe as almost over-engineered cup holders, because yeah, they kind of just come out a bit like that. But yep, cup holders there. Also got storage on the seats there. USB ports, let's have a look. Oh, there's 2 USB-C ports. So yeah, there were 2 in the back, 2 here, so there's bound to be another 2 up the front. So yeah, this car's loaded with USB ports. Pretty good, obviously, for growing families. Right, I think that's everything. Let's have a look at the front. So up front is where I think Mercedes-Benz design is just amazing, and one of the reasons why I bought an A-Class, which funny enough, if you're looking at like an A-Class or a B-Class or GLA or GLB, they have a very, very similar design on the inside here. So if you own one of those designs and you jump in one of the latest ones like this, you'll feel right at home because you'll know where everything is. So, in terms of the actual, you know, what people would always describe as build quality, there's leather everywhere. Love it. There's like smooth materials here, all nice and squidgy everywhere. Steering wheel's lovely to hold. Design of the steering wheel is lovely, but I'll come to more on that in a minute. Even on the doors here, this kind of like soft, kind of suede material. The only bit of plastics I find are kind of like right down below, kind of near the bottom, kind of down here and on the glove box, but they aren't things you'd usually touch every day. And these seats are like super comfy as well. Could easily do a long road trip in this car. So let's touch on a few other designs. Now, something I certainly cover in all of my cars going forward now is ergonomics. So things like how you use things, whether they're touch or buttons and that sort of thing. So I think we should start on steering wheel first. Now, I love the design of this steering wheel. I think it's amazing. Only thing, I just wish they were buttons. Now, I do own an A-Class, as I mentioned, and it has this steering wheel. You do get used to it. The only thing I'd suggest is just make sure your hand doesn't brush any of the kind of bits here, otherwise you'll end up moving and changing things like on the screen here. Other thing, climate control is all buttons, so no, they're not touch buttons. You can actually control it on the screen if you want to, so if you are a fan of both, then you can do it either way. But yes, they are all buttons down here. I remember reading some reviews some time ago, it was literally a few years ago, that someone said this felt really cheap. I tend to disagree with that, to be honest, because they're nice, satisfying, clicky buttons, so you know exactly what you've pressed, and it's, you know, completely fixed in underneath. I don't understand what someone said by that when I watched that review. Oh, and for those of you wondering where the display is, when you adjust this and the engine ignition on, it'll come up on the bottom of the screen, which you'll see in a minute. Now, in terms of storage, let's have a look-see. So we've got 2 cup holders in there, wireless charging in here for compatible phones, a USB-C port there, 12-volt socket there, and 2 more USB-C ports in there as well. So hang on, that means there's 2, 4, 6, 7 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket. That's a lot of USB ports. But yeah, in terms of everything else, glove box is nice big size, 2 stages there, a taller bit there and a big storage down on the bottom. Nice big door bins as well. So yeah, again, it's Mercedes-Benz just utilising all available space in this car for growing families or just in case you need like loads of space. So yeah, really, really, really good. Right, let's turn our attention to the multimedia system. As you can see, it has my name on there. So yes, although this isn't my car, if you scan a QR code and add yourself as a user, you can get your name and profile picture to appear, which is pretty cool. No peeking for a second, I'm just going to put my pin in.
Hello, Nick O'Leary.
Now, if you're not a huge fan, if you have a Mercedes-Benz, you can actually turn off that greeting. So if you ever want to do that, let me just turn this voice assistant off. If you want to turn that kind of greeting off, I have actually some tips and tricks. I think I actually filmed right here. So if you want to check that out, click on the pop-up banner up above. Loads of tutorials and tips and tricks on Mercedes-Benz Multimedia Systems. So yes, you may have noticed there is a voice assistant who can talk to you. So you can summon this voice assistant by saying, "Hey Mercedes."
Hello, I'm Mercedes, your voice assistant.
Basically, she can do all sorts of things, from phoning people in your phone book to navigating places on the sat-nav, radio stations, pretty much anything over this side over here on the left screen you can do via voice. Most of the stuff anyway. Anything that's driver related, so wipers, gears, instrument cluster, driving modes, windows, can't do that. But pretty much anything over there you can do. Now obviously if you're going to use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which this car does have as standard and wireless I should add, you'll actually have two voice assistants. So you have Siri and or the one on Android, and of course the Mercedes voice assistant as well. So loads of cool things you can do with it. Now, it's not all about the voice assistant. This is Mercedes-Benz's latest multimedia system, and it's really, really good. It's MBUX NTG7, or what Mercedes also like to call Generation 2. So this has a few things like, as I mentioned, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto with compatible phones. And you'll notice as well, there is no touchpad in the middle now. So Mercedes-Benz have removed that and replaced it with this kind of storage area. I'm honestly not sure still to this day what I would use that in my own car for, but hey, I've put the key there for now. But yes, to operate the screen, you can of course use your voice if you want to, but I know most people are going to use it as a touch screen. You just literally swipe left and right, and you can also do it on the steering wheel as well, just like that. So yeah, a couple of ways of using it. But in terms of the actual multimedia system, it is by far one of the best I've ever used. Not only is it really simple to use, it's so intuitive to the point where you actually don't really need to use the manual, because those three things are probably the most common things that most people are going to use. And maybe if you play music off your phone, then it'd be under media. So yeah, for example, like using the sat-nav, you just get navigation and you can clearly see on the screen what you're meant to press next. So you just tap that and then type in where you want to go, and it's just as simple as that. And there's like a cancel button very clearly on the screen. So yeah, don't just take my word for it. Check it out for yourself on like a test drive or something. So with all of that in mind, what is a Mercedes-Benz GLB like to drive? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's take it for a spin. Okay guys, test drive time, and literally in the nick of time, because it did just start raining slightly. It always rains when I pick up the camera to do a video, but luckily we're inside now, so that's fine. Now, GLBs are, of course, being an SUV, they're actually a lot higher off the ground, and they certainly smooth out the bumps. So I'm comparing this to my own daily car, and it's just so luxurious. It just glides across everything. Now, what I'm currently driving is a GLB 200D. So this is one of the diesel versions that Mercedes-Benz sells. So they actually have a few engines. Now these vary from a GLB 200, which is a 1.3 litre. Now I will say, don't let that put you off. A 1.3 litre these days in 2024 is really, really powerful. It's actually 163 horsepower, believe it or not. So it's surprisingly fast, and you might be thinking, oh, that's too small of an engine to put in a big car like this. Well, they actually have mild hybrid technology now, so this helps assist the engine to make it go even quicker. So again, the only thing I can suggest, take it out for a drive and see what you think. But yeah, rest assured, it is pretty punchy considering the size of the engine. Now, other engines that Mercedes offer as well are a GLB 200D, which is this one that I'm driving right now. This has 150 horsepower. And of course, being a diesel, it's quite torquey, so it can really, really pick up the pace when it needs to. Then there's a GLB 220D. This is 190 horsepower, so if you need a bit more performance and a bit more oomph. This is also 4MATIC, so this is Mercedes-Benz's four-wheel drive system. So in case you need all four wheels to turn, in case you're doing, say off-roading, but just in case you want a bit more traction, then that's obviously the one to go for. Then if you want to combine high performance cars, then you've got the GLB AMG 35. Now this is 306 horsepower. So yeah, if you want something a little bit more powerful with that petrol kind of engine, if you're a true petrol head, then that might be one to go for. Now, I've chosen this location to film on purpose because manoeuvring around like a built-up area, super easy to do. So you might actually think the car looks quite big, and honestly you wouldn't be wrong in thinking that, because the amount of people I've read in the comments saying that the car's quite big. But actually, remember the dimensions at the start of the video? One of the reasons why I covered it first. It's not that big. Look at the width. It's almost the same as some compact cars that you can buy, like, you know, hatchbacks and things. So it's just so easy to park in between parking spaces, and of course manoeuvrability, again, really, really easy to do. But as I said, it does iron out the bumps as well, which is really, really nice, because I will admit UK roads are not the best. Having been to Germany a couple of times, their roads are so much better, but you need something that's going to iron out those bumps. So let's take this out on a dual carriageway on motorway and see what it's like at motorway speeds and see what the wind noise is like. Now, just while I was driving to the dual carriageway, which is literally just over here, one thing I wanted to add as well is that Mercedes-Benz also have a model called the EQB. Now this basically is a fully electric version of the car that I'm in right now. So if you want to check that out, click on the pop-up banner up above. One thing to note, there isn't like a plug-in hybrid version that Mercedes-Benz offer on the GLB. I'm not sure why, but just something to factor in. So it's either petrol, diesel and the high performance one, or full EV. So yeah, check that video out. There's a link in the description down below as well if that didn't work. Right, dual carriageway speeds, motorway speeds, let's try it out. Let's try on the old sport mode. And this being a diesel one, a very new diesel at that, it should be very, very torquey. Right, here we go. Oh yeah, it can pull. Obviously you have to be a little bit careful with a front wheel drive car and a very torquey diesel, because it will probably spin the wheels. So, pulling out to a dual carriageway, 35, let's go. Ooh, it's got a kind of sporty sound, do I hear, from a diesel. So yeah, in terms of cruising, let's get up to 70 and get past the motorhome. Cap that out at 70 miles an hour. So yeah, in terms of noise, I can hear wind noise ever so slightly, but there again, it is higher up and it is quite windy today. There's like a storm coming in. That's why I was racing to go film before it started raining. But yeah, cruising at 70, I could easily do a long trip in this. It's super luxurious and of course has all that space in the rear as well. I would argue actually this car would actually be kind of suiting me down to the ground, because we did acquire a dog last year and he is quite big for fitting in my A-Class and he's growing every day. So something like this would be perfect. So guys, final thoughts on the Mercedes-Benz GLB. Well, I've got to say, as I mentioned a few times, it has that kind of squared off look. So one thing to note, that obviously some people might not be a huge fan of those squared off looks, so obviously some considerations there. But there again, this is how Mercedes-Benz have kind of maximised that space on the inside, and effectively turning it into a 7-seater, because don't forget, if you look at like a Mercedes-Benz GLC, for example, that's only a 5-seater. And arguably the dimensions are actually quite similar. But yeah, in this it is a 7-seater due to that squared off look. Some people might think, oh, I'm not going to use it as a 7-seater. Fine, then just use it as a 5. It's useful to have one day, I guess, just in case you need those extra seats. But as I said, for me, it'll be really good, obviously, with any pets or anything like that that you might want to put in the back. But guys, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Huge shout out to Mercedes-Benz UK, as they help provide access to this car, just so I can test it and obviously make this video for you guys. So it'd be very difficult to do without them. But guys, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.